Okay, so this is a video about the oral discussion video about the movie 12 Years a Slave. First question is, what do I think about the movie? I think it was a great movie. It was depicted very realistically to how it was for slaves back in the day, and both their attempts to escape and the way they were treated, and their living conditions, and how the owners thought of them, and how they thought of black people as like a lower life form than them. Do you think the movie was realistic or not based on what we know, and why? I think the movie's pretty realistic because all we've heard of it, it wasn't like beating around the bush. It was just straight up and tough facts about reality and how it was for slaves back in the day. Also, how you can feel the terror of the slaves and how horrible it was for them. The American Civil War was mainly about slavery. Do you think the movie could influence how some people saw the reason for the Civil War? Yes, because you can see it from a perspective of the northern part of America, whereas people were against slavery, and with this brutal, very realistic view on how it was for the slaves, you can really begin to feel why they were fighting for the black people's freedom, and how they like what the reasons were for it, and how they felt about the entire situations. Because it's not an objective movie. Like, it doesn't specifically tell you slavery was bad. It just tells a bad story about slavery and shows it realistically, whereas it's up to the viewer themselves to kind of see if it was bad or not. I had to make the characterization of the main character Solomon, and includes examples from the movie about how or why you characterize him as you do. Well, he's a family dad. We know that he's a violin player who was screwed over by his by some white men at a bar where he was captured and turned into a slave in the first part of the movie. And he was a man who fought for what he was, but he was given a different name and kind of stripped of his personality to make him basically just a tool. And the other thing about it is, you can see in the movie, in the last bit of the movie, whereas the people, his old pal, came to get him from this slave farm, you could see how it affected him. Like how happy he was to finally be free after these 12 years of being a slave, which was great. You could see that he's a person, and how when he came back he had grandkids, and how much had changed over these 12 years. So he's a very caring person, and he doesn't like to be pushed around. But when he was stripped of his personality and his power, he had no other way than to bow down. That was how they got so many of their slaves. Then I have to answer 3 study questions from the Grammatikehefte. What's the significance of the title 12 Years a Slave? It shows what it was like for a person who was captured and had to spend 12 years as a slave, because it was not his whole life he was a slave. It was not at the beginning or at the end of his life. It was just a kind of a hiccup in the middle of his life, where he was a slave and sadly had to go through these horrific things that slaves went through back in the day. How does the film predict the brutality and the inhumanity of slavery? Use specific scenes as example. Well, you can see there's a scene where one of the slaves, he gets hung and brutally beaten in the movie, and how horrible that was, and the way they were talked to, and Solomon, and that the white man who had that black girlfriend, I can think you call her, how he raped her, and how horrible it was because she had no power to do anything about it. And what emotions did the film evoke on you, and why? It was disturbing to watch because it was depicted so realistically. It evoked anger in me because nothing was done, but that was just the way it was back then. and in the end of the movie, it evokes happiness, but there's still this bitter feeling of 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 madness and like this bittersweet aftertaste, because all he had to went through when he was traumatized. And it was a very good movie. It was depicted very realistically. But that was my 5 minute and 30-second talk about 12 Years a Slave.